Deadpool, the merc with a mouth, has long been one of my favourite Marvel characters. I mean, ever since I was a kid and I was obsessed with Spider-Man, I always liked my superheroes to have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
And Deadpool always gives me a chuckle.
Absolutely. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know Deadpool, explaining his backstory is actually a little bit difficult because it changes depending on who's writing him. Deadpool himself has gone out and said that he doesn't know where he's from. Wade Wilson, his name may not actually be his name.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we can say, apart from the fact that he's insane, is that he is a mutant with an accelerated healing factor that makes Wolverine's healing ability look like a herbal remedy.
Yeah.
And in Deadpool Dead, Part 1, written by Daniel Way and penciled by Carlos Barberi, Deadpool is trying, funnily enough, to die.
Yeah, after a clone of Deadpool actually gets injected with a serum which shuts down its healing abilities and therefore allows it to die, Deadpool kind of decides maybe he'd like to try that. So he goes out and tries to find this serum.
Of course, Deadpool wouldn't be Deadpool if he tried to do this in any kind of straightforward way.
No.
So instead, he tries to manipulate a number of other Marvel characters into doing it for him.
Absolutely. His occasional accomplice Bob from Hydra, the X-Force team, the Kingpin, that's just some of them that kind of get pulled into this chaotic scheme.
And it does get a little bit chaotic, doesn't it? But that's not out of the ordinary for a Deadpool story.
No, but look, I have to say, I'm not a huge Deadpool reader. So even though there were those recognisable characters in the story, I did feel a little bit out of my depth. I certainly wouldn't recommend this for first-time Deadpool readers.
Well, look, maybe not, but for those of you in Team Deadpool, I think this is worth a look. The art is a little bit middle of the road, I have to admit, but it does do the job.
But the cover art is exceptional.
Yeah, look, that was one of the reasons I picked this one up.
Yeah.
The cover art by Dave Johnson is just fantastic. It's so stark and bold, and I really liked it.
But once you get inside the comic, it all kind of jumps around like a, I don't know, hyperactive hamster in quality. Some of the panels are really great, and some of them are just so dull, they're almost off-putting. Now, you mentioned the humour before.
Yes.
Did you get a bit of a chuckle out of this one?
Not as much as I usually would from a Deadpool story. I mean, there was that one scene where he's having a conversation with Death in one of his trademark hallucinations, which did force a giggle. But his internal dialogue could have been a lot funnier, and what surprised me was there weren't really any situations where he broke the fourth wall, which that's usually where the humour comes from in a Deadpool story.
Absolutely. Now, like I said, I've only read a bit of Deadpool, but I loved that. He would break out and talk to the reader, sometimes making fun of the story, sometimes making fun of his artwork.
It was an odd thing to miss out, but overall I still did really enjoy this story. There was a lot of madness, but it is the start of a new storyline, so I think that's mostly down to setup, and I think people are still going to have a lot of fun reading this.
You know what? I didn't have fun reading this. I mean, even as a Marvel story, I just found its lack of cohesion, and the characters that I did know and love, like Wolverine and Nightcrawler, they seemed more like cardboard cutouts than a fully fleshed character and an integral part of this story. The cover art I would absolutely frame and hang on my wall, but as for the rest of it, I'm afraid I'm going to bury it. It didn't hold me enough. Unless you're a particular fan of this Mad Mutant, I really wouldn't worry.
Look, honestly, I think that's a bit harsh. I think this is definitely a good, solid borrow. It's not the best Deadpool I've ever read, but there's certainly plenty there to enjoy, and I think it's still well worth a read.
Fair enough.